Welcome everybody. I am the air quotes comedian, a man who decided to mow the lawn before recording the podcast so that the sound of the mower wouldn't be heard as I record this. And this is the Polemics podcast. Welcome. I was headed into my local Walmart the other day to get some groceries, but beforehand I noticed that there wasn't really any room in my car to put the groceries. I'm not saying I'm a slovenly slob with a car full of trash, but the interior of my vehicle did have a passing resemblance to the local garbage dump. Fortunately, I had a bin bag, so I heaped all the rubbish, empty snack packaging, plastic bottles that had been used as impromptu urinals, a mountain of traffic violation tickets, and the snow that sat on their peaks, and, for some reason, a full-sized American flag. I put all that shit into the garbage sack where it belonged. So, there I am with a sack full of garbage, walking to the rear of Walmart. Doesn't have to be Walmart, by the way. I'm just picking on Walmart in particular because they're cunts and I fucking despise them. But I walk round to the back of Walmart, who you may recall are cunts as I mentioned mere moments ago, and I head towards the dumpster to put in my bag of rubbish. Now, I don't know about you, dear viewer, but I certainly didn't expect to be met by a team of heavily armoured submachine gun wielding police at the dumpster. But there they were. The chief of this heavily armoured machine gun wielding police said, "You weren't thinking of taking anything out of the dumpster, were you? That'd be a bad move on your part." I said, "Constable, I just wanted to put my bag of rubbish in the dumpster." I suspect, dear viewer, that you might be scratching your head, perhaps wondering what in the name of fuck I'm banging on about, right?
This comedy bit is a bit shit. Not only is it completely unfunny, but it doesn't even make any sense. Air quotes comedian has finally lost both his mind and whatever passed for comedic talent, ain't he?
Oh dear viewer, look deep within yourself, because you already know, don't you? You already know what I'm going to say next. I'm not making this shit up, it really happened. These days, when grocery stores throw away perfectly edible food into the dumpster, they don't have an armed SWAT team guarding it. No, what they do now is just pour bleach over the wasted, perfectly edible food to turn it into wasted but perfectly inedible food. Hey, seems perfectly reasonable to me. When I throw away my leftovers, I just take a piss into my rubbish bin so that no fucker can eat my shit when I'm done with it. Crying over spilt milk. That's the title of this episode of the Polemics. You might wonder why I give a shit about spilt milk when I don't even drink the stuff. Got milk? That's the advertising slogan for milk here in the USA, isn't it?
Now he's going on about milk. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? No, he really has completely lost his mind this time, hasn't he?
Got milk, an advertising slogan so ingrained into the American psyche that you see variants of it used in other advertisements. Got Jesus? That's another variant I see quite often as I drive around Billboard America. Got milk? Actually, no, I haven't got milk, have I? But you know where you can find some delicious milk? Do you know where you can find 60,000 gallons of sweet, delicious, milky white milk? That's right, in a manure pit in the Midwest. Unbelievable as it may seem, dairy farmers were paid to take their tankers full of milk and dump it. Now, far be it from me to take the piss out of dairy farmers who confuse the bottling plant with a fucking manure pit. You may be aware of something called planned obsolescence, where products such as televisions, mobile phones, novelty dildos, and even your dear old grandma are designed to irreparably fail after a certain amount of time and/or usage. You may recall that one time when you heard your dear old grandmama say something like,
"Back in my day, novelty dildos were built to last. Nowadays, when I pleasure your grandfather anally, they break right away."
But I'm not here to talk about planned obsolescence, though, I just did. No, you see, it's not just perfectly edible food that's thrown away, or oceans of unspoiled milk being squirted into shit pits. No, it happens with non-edible products as well. Books still in their shrink wrap, clothes that have never been worn, televisions that have never been watched, and laptops that have never been so much as turned on. Unlike Grandpa when he sees the Mickey Mouse dildo in Grandmama's bony hand. All of this stuff is sent to landfills, which is a bit odd given that traditionally landfills are there for the purpose of housing unwanted rubbish so that the groundwater can be poisoned. It's not just brand new small ticket items that are hurled into the trash with wild abandon either. Car manufacturers will send unsold cars to the scrapyard to be cubed in that car crushing machine you occasionally imagine yourself in. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? Here in the good old US of A, if you make charitable donations, then it can be written off against taxes. But then, I suppose a company would actually have to pay their taxes in the first fucking place. But why is perfectly edible food being slung into the rubbish heap? Why was milk being poured into a manure pit? Manure pits being the breakfast of choice for right-wing Christian conservatives. Why are televisions, pristine laptops and the like taking up valuable real estate in the landfill when that space could be used for something that actually deserves to be there? Like right-wing Christian conservatives. Why are new cars being turned into oversized paperweights when they could be used for running over people who think I'm predictable? What in the name of Sam Hain is going on? It's our old enemy capitalism, innit? That's what's going on. I will explain everything, I promise, but I'll keep my promise this time. It won't be like the time I promised to help you move house. You might think you've got a solid grasp of what capitalism is, right? I mean, who doesn't know what capitalism is? Let's head over to Eastonmere Upper Secondary School to find out. Okay, class, quiet down. Quiet down. Thank you. Right, who can give me an example of capitalism? Yes, Nigel.
Capitalism is when you buy and sell stuff. It's markets, isn't it, sir?
Nigel, even communist countries have markets, and they certainly aren't capitalists, are they? Anybody else? Anybody? Yes, George.
My dad says you're a loony lefty and a communist.
What your dad drunkenly proclaims from his bar stool at the Nag's Head is totally irrelevant. Anybody else? Yes, Alex.
I read the assigned reading material, sir.
Ever the fucking apple polisher, aren't you? Carry on, Alex.
An example of capitalism is like if I owned a factory making novelty dildos, sir, and I pay the people who make the dildos at a rate that isn't commensurate with the value of their labour. Thus, essentially, I am stealing money from a majority that I exploit to make myself richer, then use my wealth to consolidate my position by purchasing government legislators to pass laws lowering my tax burden, gutting workers' union protections, and allowing me to have a disproportionately large voice when it comes to regulating my industry.
Very good, Alex, but you make capitalism sound like a bad thing. So it's off to the headmaster's office for you for a good thrashing. That wasn't it, by the way, the explanation of why perfectly good products are being thrown away. I just wanted to offer up my definition of capitalism so that you know where we are in the context of its evil. The fashion industry is the epitome of everything demonstrably wrong with capitalism. I mean, once t-shirts and jeans were invented, I reckon they could have called it a day, really. But no, year after year they design new clothes, pretentiously referring to what they do as art, which it fucking isn't. The perfectly good clothes that they still have in stock when the new lines come out are ripped up with box cutters and thrown into the garbage, which ironically is what I think would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do with fashion designers. I'm going to do a bit of foreshadowing to show off my writing skills now. Profit. So, why does the fashion industry shred the emperor's old clothes when they roll out the emperor's new clothes? Profit. They could sell last year's clothes, but putting the clothes in the bargain bin along with the compact discs featuring the classic soft rock of yesteryear would make their product look cheap, damage their brand, and hurt future profits. Shockingly, the high prices of designer brands has nothing to do with their intrinsic worth because these companies do everything they can to maintain an artificially high price for, you've guessed it, profit. And heaven fucking fend that they might donate last year's clothes to charity.
Mummy,
Yes, dear.
why is the bag lady toting a Chanel clutch and wearing a plaid Versace dress and jacket from last year's collection?
It turns out that having the homeless people better dressed than the average stiff might hurt the company's bottom line. Worse still, it might make people question the wisdom of capitalism itself. The same shit happens with cars and laptops, which I mentioned before. Never mind the fact that waste from electronic products is extremely toxic and damaging to the environment. Those laptops could be given to schools because you already know they're going to be miles better than the Hewlett-Packard crap from the early 2000s that they're using now. Granted, it's all going to end up in the garbage sooner or later, but at least they'd get some usage. It isn't just me, right? This shit is completely fucking insane. It isn't just me that thinks that this bullshit is evil. Take the aforementioned cars. Down here in southern Illinois, a new car costs more than the average house. Cars are built on production lines by slightly racist, Dale Mail reading robots with faulty logic circuits. Cars are really not worth their asking price, but as consumers we have no leverage with car manufacturers to bring the prices in line with something approaching what they're actually worth. I would advise against buying a brand new car anyway, because that new car smell is something they deliberately put in during the manufacturing process, and it's both toxic and carcinogenic. That's right, brand new cars give you fucking cancer. We all remember our mum telling us to eat everything on our plates because of all the starving children in Africa. Apologies to any orphans listening. In your case, it was no doubt the whatever people are called who work in orphanages. Paedophiles, I think. Anyway, they tell you, no, Oliver, you can't have any more. Now suck my dick. The fact is, in the USA, there's enough food for everybody to eat and then some. But at the same time, there are a lot of hungry people. Perhaps instead of 40% of food being marinated in fucking bleach, thrown into the dumpster and guarded by armed thugs, we, maybe could make sure that nobody in society goes hungry. Just a thought. That's it for this episode of the Polemics. Be sure to hit the dislike button and then go forth and occupy Wall Street.